tackling security and privacy issues in 2023.
Okay, so this session is going to be quite interesting, just to understand what's going on in the market. So guys, just come all over, and you'll introduce yourselves is the best way. Okay, great. So there's someone missing, no? No? Okay. Anish didn't come. Okay. So, yeah, let's go one by one. I'll start first. I'm Fernando. I'm founder and CEO of Relays. Relays is a communications protocol, a focus on really hypersecurity and privacy. We've been building for 3 years. I've been in this space forever. Quite tired, and I've been in cybersecurity for quite a while. So, next.
Hi, my name is Iosif Peterfi. I am the CEO of Ethernity Cloud. We build technologies that replace the traditional Web 2 technologies when it comes to cloud computation. And they are targeting Web 3 applications and developers. And the advantage to the end user is that they can experience the usage of decentralized servers at the end. We developed this for the past 5 years, and now we're accelerating development because of a very good trend that's happening.
Hello. So I'm Shawn. I'm from Salusec. So we are a smart contract auditing and penetration testing firm. So anything from solidity and then as well as like your front end and back end stuff, we're able to like help secure it. As well as like we're also developing our own like rapid detection tool. So it's like an automated way to do that, to do audit. And we are also one of the contributor to like the SWC like vulnerability database. So it is something. It is like all the loopholes that exist in the security like Ethereum world, and then we are the one who are actually updating it right now. So we are like doing security research to like keep on like helping the Ethereum and as well as like crypto space to become safer and safer. Thank you.
I'm Nick, head of sales of NODA. We're an open banking provider working primarily on the European and Canadian markets. We also do have a financial AI which we use to build customer profiles of the merchants we work with.
Okay, thank you, guys. So let's make this a bit of a free flow. The first question that I prepare for you guys is, in your opinion, what are the 2 top concerns in security and privacy for 2023? Who wants to pick up first?
I can start. So the first concern is the privacy of users' information. When it comes to like healthcare information, things like that, what happens today is the sector of the cloud, it's growing. There's more and more data that's being processed. However, there's a shrinkage in personnel, let's say, qualified people that can handle security. Because of this, we need to find technologies that address this issue. The second concern, in my opinion, it's besides the privacy, it's awareness for like security, how to protect your information, and how to use the technology in the right way. Because most of the people, even in Web3, they just set up a wallet, they forget their passphrase and things like that. So it does happen. So this is in Web3 space, but also in the regular Web2 space, awareness is lacking.
Okay, for my opinion, I'll go into 2 ways. Like of course, like I would go through like the code security stuff and as well as like the dev stuff. So from the code security perspective, I think like especially like Web3 projects, everyone knows like they would do an audit at some point for their smart contract. But if you look at the landscape, like 90% of the players here, they don't really understand the importance of like the security on the code, because sometimes they're just trying to like fulfill some sort of requirement for investment due diligence or stuff like that. But really, it's really important to like get over like all these like code security to be fixed, as well as like not just a smart contract, but also your Web2 side, which is your front end and back end. I think that's where a lot of people like neglecting, because like they're in Web3, so a lot of them they tend to neglect the Web2 part. So if you look at all the hack statistic, actually a majority or part of the hack actually comes from the Web2 part, which is the front end and back end. The DNS exploit. I'm able to hijack your website, stuff like that. So that's something like I think like the projects should be looking into it, not just a smart contract, but as well as the front end and back end. And then the second part, I would think like it would be like the developers like security, like education as well. A lot of the developers in this market, they made the transit from like Web 2 to Web 3, but the big difference about the developers in Web 2 and Web 3 is that the idea of like code is law and code is money. So if you've been in Web 3 for a long time, you understand like everything you write is like a law to your protocol, as well as like it could, if you didn't write it right, it could result in like the hack incident, which is you lost your money. So code is money. So I think like from the security part, one is like the code security, and second thing is like the developers like the security education. So that's something that we're trying to do, like help to educate the market as well.
From my experience, I've noticed, well, we all know that there's significant security issues when payments is involved. So especially with cards, there are some issues which we basically resolve via the open banking, since we're directly integrated with the banks. And the risk of actually somebody processing how to say it, a fraudulent transfer is pretty much resolved. So yeah, that's my expertise is in payments. So basically, I'll be talking about that.
Yeah, very good points, and I totally agree with all of what you said. From my perspective, I think decentralization is quite important when we're talking about security and privacy. Yeah? And there's a lot of centralization again, layer 2s and layer 3s that say they are layer 2s, and that brings the problem back, in my opinion. So we need to watch out, really, going forward, how secure are really these layer 2s. And from my perspective, I'm very critical. A lot of people know about layer 2s, because it means the layer 1, the actual chain was not architected and developed properly, to achieve what it's supposed to achieve. So that's why we have to build something on top of it, which actually removes the main function of a chain, which is to decentralize, and provide everything else that we know.
I agree with this topic. The more layers we kind of add on top, the more compromise we do on our security. But it's also a price advantage. So I think overall, in somebody making a decision, they decide to use the first layer that's really secure, like Bitcoin would be really secure, right? It doesn't have maybe the same functions, but then you move to Ethereum, which is quite secure. Although it's facing a bit of centralization. But then you go on top of Ethereum, for instance, and then you make more, let's say, compromise on what the actual transaction does for the exchange of a good price. So I think it's basically how much you pay is what you get, from my opinion.
Yeah.
But we need to be aware what direction we're going with the technology to keep things in checks and in balance. So awareness is,
Yeah, I totally agree, and that and governance of all of that is something that is always compromised.
Absolutely.
And then we see all the problems out there. But That brings me to the next question, which the race for the chains to have higher TPS, yeah, it's what's going on at the moment. They all, I mean, there's lots of chains at the moment. You know, who's going to be faster, and then the layer twos, who's going to be faster. So, is this race going to compromise the security and scalability? Because there's the three rules, yeah. One of them usually is compromised: scalability, you know, security, speed.
Yeah.
So is this race for the TPS going to compromise security or scalability? Which one do you guys think?
So I'll start. I think there's this triangle trilemma it's called usually. Everybody puts a different corner idea. So one corner is obviously this performance. The other corner is security. And the other corner is like energy efficiency, or how you want to call it. You like imagine this triangle having like you can pick your technology. If it's highly in one point in security, then it's going to use a lot of resources and it's not going to be very performant. So it's up to the business decision makers to pick the right technology. There's no one size fits all. And yes, when we make something very, very performant, we compromise a bit on security. But we need to understand what is a compromise and if it's acceptable for the business. So, yeah.
Well, from my opinion, I think, first of all, like the chasing TPS thing is one thing, but the more importantly, like, even if you have like highest the TPS in the whole like layer 2 or like the blockchain world, are there anyone that's gonna use you? That's the first thing. And then if there's like a real like good traffic that's using a chain that is a high TPS, and then you talk about like the scalability and security, of course, I think like there would be some sort of compromise on the security side, because like when you're chasing speed, that could lead to that. Scalability wise, I don't think so that much, especially like with, let's take an example, Ethereum. They're going to have the EIP 4884, which is protocol sharding protocol up like after the Shanghai upgrade. That is like where they upgraded scalability. But then there's also this AIP 4337 where they actually like give you a new terms of blob space and block space. That part is, I think now they are all focusing on like the scalability part, but then like the security part is something like that needs to be better tested, because security is something like you don't know. So there's so much you can do here. There's no like one solution fit all stuff, because like security issues comes like it's kind of like a time thing. So there's some vulnerabilities it's there. It's just that we haven't seen what yet, and then no one is like utilizing them yet. So it's just a matter of time. So I would say the security, like the impact would be there, but maybe we haven't seen it yet. In case of like TPS kind of thing like that. But scalability wise, I don't think like it would be like a big factor over here, because like everyone's just chasing that one right now. Yeah. So security, I think time will prove it and see if there's anything that would like affect it like heavily. So that's like up to a lot of this like security providers like keep on doing research and then like try to locate all these like vulnerabilities before the black hat hackers try to utilize it.
I completely agree with both of you. I also want to mention that even if you find a solution for one security issue, immediately afterwards another security issue will pop up. This does not mean that we should basically give up and do nothing about that. It just means that we need to be ahead of the game and use the best tools that we have available in our arsenal. Now, of course, this is not only one solution or one product. This is most definitely a combination of products which everybody has to make their own research and their decision based on their own KPIs and their own security and risk targets.
Great. So let's talk about smart contract vulnerabilities. Yeah, it's always an interesting topic. I was one of the first guys. A lot of people know I've been talking for almost 3 years now that all the bridges should be closed. Yeah, it's just my analogy is, for hackers, when they see a bridge, they see like a small kid see sweets on top of a table. What do you think the kid is gonna do, right? So it's just insane what's going on out there, and the amount of liquidity is on them. Yeah, so the vulnerabilities are quite high. And what are the main threats that you guys are seeing out there? Yeah, and also what are the new vectors that you are actually seeing out there? And I know you guys at Salusec look a lot of this stuff because these guys are really, really good. I'm telling you. So can you start with that, please?
Sure,
first?
no problem. So talking about smart contract like vulnerabilities, so it's really interesting to think that I was talking about the rapid detection tools that we developed there. So so one thing to understand is like the automated tools can never replace a manual like expert auditing, because like there's a lot of things inside your code. It's not just the code. It's like the business logic and the design logic your dev put into it. So you need a human eye to spot it. So but an automated tools, it is able to like tell like the most like 95% of the very superficial level kind of like mistake that the developers like leave it there. So one thing we see so we've been helping a lot of VCs, incubator, asset, and also exchanges as well to go to like look at like the portfolio, the projects. We have done rapid detection on like thousands of projects. So here's like the top 3 vulnerabilities we found like most common like with all these projects and their code, and then they're most neglected from. The first one being like the weak random number like generating. So to those who might not know, like if you're a project like a DeFi or a GameFi, especially GameFi you rely on random number a lot to like make the games like play for like a lot of like gameplay stuff. So and also as well as like the NFT minting. So if you are doing like NFT mint, like it's a random number generating thing, right? So if you have a weak random number generating source, some hackers, they're able to utilize the weak random number generator to actually manipulate the kind of NFT they are able to produce. So that's one thing we see a lot. It's either the hacker, they're going to utilize it, or maybe it's the project itself trying to leave a backdoor so they can generate better NFT. Okay, so the first one. And the second one is we also see a lot of front-run risk. So we found the type of front-run risk where the attacker was able to change the, when you send from this address to this address, or when you're swapping from here to here. So they're able to change the address to the final destination to their own address. So when the users when they are trying to swap or like they're trying to transfer, they are actually like transferring. They're going to lose all the tokens, and then the beneficiary is actually the hacker themselves. That's one part, and then the last one is the good old reentrancy risk. I've seen that lots of times. Pretty much like I would say like 50% of the time, when I'm not even talking about manual expert auditing, but it's like just the automated tools that we're able to scan. It always pops up so much. It's a well-known like security risk in the market. A lot of people, there's a lot of article talking about this. A lot of like things like trying to mitigate it as well. But like this backs to like my previous point about like a lot of devs, they don't, when they're transiting from Web 2 to Web 3, the lack of the education of like how you write security, like really secure code on smart contract, because like code is law and code is money. So that's one of the things that will most important, like if you want to really go like navigate in this space, you need to like keep yourself updated in the security space. What kind of security issues that have been popping up lately, and then update it, try to like, when you write code, just try to avoid that kind of thing. Just about. Yeah.
So I think you covered most of the topic in a very good detail. I think from experience, since we develop in a Web3 space, the most looking around what others are doing and doing our own assessments of tools and code, I think the most, let's say, risky or the highest risk is having a Web2 developer or like a regular developer just throwing him into Solidity or some Web3 framework. It could be, any other blockchain that has a developer program, and use the same mindset. The problem is in the mindset, because in a regular program, the functions run one by one, and everything is controlled in one space, and it's running like in one space, in one location, one program. Once you do a decentralized application, all the functions run asynchronously. Anyone can do part of this big interconnected functions in a different order. So analyzing this order, a hacker can determine where there is a vulnerability and exploit it. What's worse, you cannot even patch it. So once the code is up there, it's on chain, and somebody finds out the vulnerability, you cannot fix it. So this is by far the most dangerous, let's say, uneducated developers in the Web3 space. So as well, operational things with smart contracts and so on, they are a worry, and I think those are more, let's say, prominent. But yeah, I think hackers will focus on this kind of stuff. Thing is, you see it in the news once it's exploited, and you think, okay, they did something wrong yesterday. No, they did the development wrong from the get-go. It's just a hacker waited a long time enough to hit it. So, yeah.
Yeah, from my perspective, we noticed that especially in our industry, there are too many intermediaries in the entire payment process. So I understand sometimes it's easy and comfortable to go in that direction. However, the more intermediaries there are, the more likely you are to actually get hacked and being exploited. So, in my opinion, and not only mine, I suppose, it's best to actually be working as directly as possible with your provider. So, being decentralizing or payments, it's best to actually work with somebody who provides the product itself and not intermediaries, so to say.
Yeah, great, guys. So one last question now, and I think we only have about a few minutes left. I'm always concerned about the entry point, and that's the user a lot of times. Yeah. When you look at wallets and the state of wallets development, yeah, and how new users are coming to the space and what they have to go through to create a wallet, it's just mind-blowing, yeah. What are you guys seeing out there, and what are your concerns around the malware and phishing that is going on to try to get to the point that can get that user, to trick the user so that they go to a malicious smart contract, What are all of those entry points that you are seeing out there, yeah? Or that you know about? Or if you have any concerns about that, if you don't come up with any of those entry points. Because for me, I just had someone recently that asked me to help her because she got one of those links, she clicked, and she ended up in a malicious smart contract. And it's just getting that permission that people sometimes don't know, and they just empty her wallet of every single token, So is it going to get complicated as well in 2023?
I would say, so here's the thing about this wallet thing, like a lot of things that relates to the DevOps as well. So you need to have like a clear understanding of like before you really put your money, like big money into this kind of like contract and something like that, you really need to like understand who's behind this thing and then like who is running the code, especially like use some tools to run like their contract and see if it's like malicious. That's one way to mitigate it. And as well as like I would say like there are definitely I mean like I said there's like this EIP 4337 that actually like that does the account extraction on Ethereum. I think that is going to be the interesting thing in 2023 because it essentially it combines both wallet and like your smart contract into like the same wallet. And so like there will be a lot of creativity and innovation arising from that. But again, maybe the security could be compromised. That's one thing, but also I will point out one thing is like this space is like a really dangerous, like the crypto space is a really like high valuable target like space here. As a matter of fact, like like there's a North Korean Lazarus group that's always trying to hack everything in crypto. As a matter of fact, I actually interview a few like auditors trying to come to our place, and turns out they are like I suspect they're like kind of like the Lazarus group kind of people because these people do like code so well because they're not just one people doing the code. They actually have a group of people that actually help to do your stuff when they come to work in a company, and they tend to leave backdoors and like vulnerabilities in your code, and then they can come back to like dig out more money after you got a huge TDL stuff like that. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Again, you covered a very important part of the issue here. The EIP you mentioned truly makes it more, let's say, user-friendly when you deal with recovering the wallet. If you lose the passphrase, for instance. So I think that's a very good use case where users can trust kind of, like, what if you lose the passphrase? It's a big issue. However, when you deal with accessing malicious smart contracts, it's all about awareness. It's about people understanding how Web3 works. It's about reading the prompts and being able to interpret the prompts and the smart contract address and knowing what to check for. Similarly, let's say in Web2 space, looking at the URL in order not to get scammed in the past. Now everybody knows that. You need to look at the URL. It's URL of the bank. It's SSL. Yes, then I can use it. I don't just click in an email and just expect it to work. So usually hackers, like in order to end up on a malicious contract, you have to go through to kind of an email, or like the entry point is there, and then yeah, you act on it. There's much more intermediary steps you have to take, but you have to be aware you can at any time validate what's going on. Most of the people that use blockchain and crypto because it's so popular and hiked up overnight, and then they're attracted by, let's say, speculative benefits, they don't really have this awareness, and it's hard for them to, maybe for some of them, to actually understand. But they should do their homework, let's say, when they're working with a lot of money, and understand how this technology works. The information is there. It's just they need to be aware of it and know until it happens to them. The attacks and what's happening is not really, I mean, they're in the news, but when one person is attacked, we have a community of about 80,000 people, or approximately, and inside that community, we had a few cases where people got their wallet lost or hacked, and then they came up to us, maybe we can help. We can't. So it's their responsibility.
We have 1 minute. We have to finish.
Well, I completely agree with you guys. I just want to mention that, as we all know, phishing has absolutely skyrocketed in the last couple of months and years. And even, I mean, many people are working on a solution of this problem, but still, a plain example, when you cross the street, you look left and right. You don't just go directly expecting that the car will have stopped. So I would suggest the same thing regarding phishing. Just be careful. Think what you're doing and check the platforms you're going on. I believe that's the most efficient way which a person can protect themselves first, and then hope that there is something in place to protect you further.
Okay, thank you guys very much.
Sorry, I have two questions.
Thank you. 2 minutes left?
No, I have two questions, if I may.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Okay, sorry. If you don't mind, I have a couple of questions. That was really interesting. Okay, my first one is when you were talking about, I think it was you, Shawn. You were talking about the RNG and the vulnerability of a weak RNG. So coming from the gaming side, I've been in the gaming side for 20 years. RNG certification has been kind of, it's not even a question. It was one of the first things that we did, was just centrally, certified, and it was mandatory by regulation. So in the world where everything's decentralized and there is no authority going, do this for the good of all, because it is for the good of all, how does that fit? Is there a middle ground acceptable or even desirable where there's some sort of, a central agreement, whether it's not, regulation or agreement, where it's like, okay, so let's do this, let's get the RNG certified, let's get this. It detracts from the very nature of decentralization, but it actually adds value to the very nature of decentralization. What do you think?
So what you're asking is like how like the GameFi thing could detract from decentralization?
No, I'm just asking your thoughts basically on there are benefits to there being a central focus when it comes to security, when it comes to regulations, privacy, especially around the area of anti-money laundering. You're talking about hackers, and Iosif, you were saying things can't be fixed. As an AML person, I'm just like, oh fuck no, sorry. But so it's more around where is there a tolerance now or in the future that some sort of centralization is actually going to help the decentralization?
I can maybe we research this very specific space. Mm-hmm. So how I see it is at the layer or the base layer, you'd have the blockchain mm-hmm. that ensures kind of integrity to the whole process, but then you need a application developer or a smart contract combined with some off-chain mm-hmm. computation that does the certification, and that could be in the hands of an authority mm-hmm. That is for transparency. So at the very end, the users understand the process is as it's designed, mm-hmm. it's exposed and it's transparent. People understand this is what the smart contract, this is what this application does in very good detail. And they're happy nobody's doing anything weird there. As the authority, they don't have to worry about, trying to fix things when things go bad, because it's well designed and it's already happening as it's done, and it's developed as intended. Then, of course, they higher authorities, they need to look at it and approve of the fact that's the right way of doing things. But I assume in the digital space, especially digital ministries in the world, looking at blockchain and so on, they would understand this, or they would start to. Because to my understanding, this gives a more transparent approach to the whole certification thing, mm-hmm. Especially when it comes to timestamping. Everybody knows the timestamping is the certifier's timestamping.
Yeah.
And then you have a kind of the blockchain. It's clear. So from an integrity perspective, it's in that block, is before that block. It doesn't matter the time, who did it first, when was certified. That's what's important.
But see,
I want to add to that. So any centralization is bad. Okay, you have to start from that principle. Yeah, with centralization.
So Animal Farm, 4 legs good, 2 legs bad.
With centralization comes power in some form of some authority, and that is bad. Now, should we have regulations, processes, rules? Yes, of course. Yeah, but anything that is a process, anything that is a rule. Yeah, there is governance around that. All of that can be in smart contracts.
Right.
Yeah? So actually, in my previous startup, we came up with a concept that was put in side chains, and eventually I found out that PwC was working on something like that as well. They called Ledger at the time. It was 2017 or 18, mm-hmm. and basically, if you put all of those, and that becomes the standard, it's like any standard, then every single chain that is out there, every single other company that has to abide by those type of rules. So the timestamp is actually let's say an audit, that you need that stamp and say yes. And that's the timestamp, because you are, for everything that you do in code is going against that clearly defined standard that is on smart contracts, So all can be translated, as long as you have those rules defined, can be translated to code, and then it's executed.
Yeah. So sorry, did you want to jump in and say
No,
something?
I'm just going to give you a new perspective of like, so I'm not talking about a blockchain thing, I'm talking about centralization and versus decentralization. So sometimes centralization is good. So take a look at the security industry. So, security industry, we are like an audit company. So of course we're pretty centralized. We're just working on decentralized stuff. But then like there's also some like bug bounty platform where like projects, they will list out like the projects, the code there, and then ask some like freelance auditors or hackers to like try to audit the code. So here's the thing. So a bug bounty platform or like this kind of platform is like decentralized, right? Because like it's all around, all the auditors are spread around. They don't tie to a single entity. So what happened is that when you're in a bug bounty platform and then you are a project put up there, you gotta worry about one thing. So all these auditors that are trying to audit your code, they are either white hat or black hat. How do you draw the line, differentiate the black hat and white hat? I can find a vulnerability and it is so rewarding. The ROI is so high. I can just code it to me, and then when you guys grew to a stage, I just utilize this vulnerability to hack into you, because the ROI is so high for me to hack you versus of getting the bug bounty from you. So this is why like I think like security industry, there has to be some sort of centralization, because like the accountability of the security audit company when it comes to like all this issue, you have someone to go to, because like I audited you, I'm responsible for all those like issues that you're doing. Whereas if you go to like this decentralized way, this is the humanity question. You can never like say like everyone is like on the good side. There's always some undercover there, trying to like utilize all these hacks, and then they just like pretend they're a white hat. So that's why I said like decentralization, of course, is the way to go, but like some centralization is still needed to like control the big picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's two different viewpoints there. Centralization bad, centralization is sort of necessary. My second question, and I know we've gone way out of time, but this is really, really, really interesting. My second question is based on something that you said, which I find horrifying, which is sometimes mistakes are there and you just can't fix them. So as this goes back to say something like Ultimate Bet Poker over in Canada, where a backdoor was created and it brought down pretty much the entire industry for some time. Without, how can the DeFi world, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, but how can the DeFi world expect to be taken seriously as part of overall finance, which it is, when you're okay, or when you appear to be okay with saying mistakes are there, we can't do anything about them?
I can take that, because if you look on centralization, how should I say, anything that is centralized, it doesn't matter finance or not. Let's start like that. All of those mistakes are even higher. I mean, they constantly, you see, even banks are going bankrupt now.
Oh God, yeah,
some
absolutely.
of them. So the mistakes are there. The DeFi appeared to actually solve some of those problems. Is it 100% the whole solution? Is it always going to get it right? No, of course
But it's
not.
got the disadvantage of having to earn trust from the outset.
Yes, of course. But, there's always going to be startups that fail. These are all startups. This is new technology. We're still right at the beginning of the innovation. In that process, some of those are going to fail. Some of them are going to make lots of mistakes, But mistakes are a lot less. Because they're more transparent. A lot of mistakes that in central
they're more
finance,
transparent, but they're less fixable.
less fixable depends.
Okay.
Depends really. It depends how it's implemented. Some are fixable, some are not fixable. Depends on how you create the smart contracts. But if it's a chain, usually it can be fixed. If it's on a smart contract, depends, you know. There are ways around that
Yeah.
as well. Yeah?
No, and like I said, I'm playing devil's advocate because I
Yeah.
know there are very good companies that I work with that they're, you know, they can kick out the bad actors, they can see all the transactions. So I'm just playing devil's advocate because this was really, really bloody interesting. Thank you so much. That was a great panel.
Thank you for the questions
Thank you very
as well.
much. Thank you.
Thank you.